Okay, in this question we want to determine whether the following integral converges or diverges, and if it converges we want to know the value. So the first thing we want to do is change negative infinity into t, so we can get a concrete variable. So we'll say t is equal to negative infinity. And so the next step we want to do is now apply that. So we'll say t, and we have 0 x times e raised to x in terms of dx. We can use integration by parts or the tabular method to get the antiderivative of this. So we'll use a tabular method. So we got to think of one term out of the two that can give us 0 when we take the derivative. The term that will do that will be x. So we do x, the derivative of x is going to be 1, derivative of 1 is going to be 0. E raised to the x is the one we will take the antiderivative of. So we have e raised to the x, antiderivative is simply going to be e raised to the x, again e raised to the x. The tabular method alternates between positive, negative, positive. So the next step we need to do is kind of like multiply out what we have. So what we're going to get for this, for the antiderivative, will be positive x times e raised to the x. So we'll have x times e raised to the x, negative 1 times e raised to the x. So we'll get negative e raised to the x. And our two values are t and 0. So when we apply 0, we'll get 0 for this. Minus e raised to 0 will be negative 1. Minus parentheses, now we simply plug in t. So we'll get t times e raised to the t minus e raised to the t. And let me get some room here. So in order to know the value for this, we have to actually think about it a little bit. So a negative t times e raised to the t is going to be, actually let's first distribute the negative. So we'll get negative 1 minus t raised to the et plus e raised to t. So if we have t approaching negative infinity, right, essentially what we have is going to be negative t e raised to negative t. This is just equivalent to this. I mean, e raised to negative t would be times e raised to t. So we're going to say the limit as t approaches negative infinity. So what happens? If you plug in negative infinity, you'll get infinity over infinity. So we can't know much about that. So we have to use L'Hopital's rule. And in doing L'Hopital's rule, we take the derivative of this and the derivative of this. So we'll get negative 1 divided by negative e raised to the negative t. This is equivalent to e raised to the t. And if we plug in negative infinity for t, we know that it will equal 0. So we know that this term is 0, and this term is also 0. Therefore, our final answer is going to be negative 1. And so we know it converges. And that's all we need to do.